Welcome everybody, and thanks for joining our talk today. My name's Lauren and I work in the sports department here at Roehampton. Today we'll be discussing all things diet and nutrition. I'll be talking to Azize, who is a dietitian and a master's student studying clinical nutrition. We'll be talking for about 40 to 45 minutes, and then we'll have some time at the end for you to ask any questions or ask if there's anything you didn't understand. You can either type it in the chat box or just unmute yourselves and start talking. And we've also got some questions that have come in from social media. And this will also be recorded and posted on our YouTube. So if you'd like to watch it again to look at some of the slides, then you can do that as well. So thanks to Azize for joining me to talk about such an important topic, especially now, you know, we can't see family and friends. It's not very light outside, and of course what we eat affects us mentally as well as physically. So I want to start with, depending on stress levels, some people undereat, some people overeat. How much does the amount that we eat and the food that we're eating affect our energy levels?
Okay, thank you for the question, Lauren. First of all, I want to start with a basic rule. There should be a balance between daily energy intake and energy expenditure for the weight management. And if we consume more energy than we need, we are going to put on weight. But if we consume less energy than we need, we are going to lose weight. It is a basic rule. And also, daily calorie depend on many factors, including age, weight, sex, physical activity level, and also metabolic conditions. And we have general calorie recommendations, and these are 2,500 kilocalorie for men and 2,000 kilocalorie for women. But of course, beyond calories, what we eat matters. And that's why we always emphasize healthy eating recommendations. Basically, unhealthy diets means high consumption of fast food, refined, ultra-processed carbohydrates, sugar-sweetened beverages, and this kind of diets are high in energy, added sugar, sodium, fat, saturated fat, but low in micronutrients, I mean vitamins, minerals, and also low in dietary fiber. And these factors affect our health. First of all, we need micronutrients to support our immune system. And the best way to get them is from food rather than from supplements. And for example, fiber also affects our health in many aspects in terms of gastrointestinal health and also satiety. If we eat high in fiber food, we are less likely to feel hungry in short term. But if we consume ultra processed refined carbohydrates, for example, which are also low in dietary fiber, we may feel hungry, and also we may feel tired. And these are the main effects on our energy levels. That's why how much we consume and what we consume matters for our health.
Mm-hmm. So really, we can consume more. If people like to eat more, they can eat more, but as long as it's the right food.
What can you ask again?
So, you know, some people eat quite a lot of food, but if it's the right kind of food, doesn't really matter how much of it they eat.
Actually, we have portion sizes and some recommendations for any kind of food. Okay. But for example, for vegetables, we can consume more than recommendations. It is okay, but we shouldn't consume, for example, too much carbohydrate-rich foods because they are also high in calorie and they can cause weight gain.
Okay. So protein is usually associated with eating meat, but of course a lot of people are vegetarian or even vegan. What types of food should people with different dietary requirements eat to get their protein?
Okay, Especially meat is of course a good source of protein and many other micronutrients, including vitamin B12 and iron. But still, we shouldn't consume too much amount of red meat in our diet, because especially red meat is high in saturated fat, and too much saturated fat consumption is associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease. That's why we need to combine our protein sources with both plant-based and animal-based protein sources. And we also have vegan sources of proteins, though their protein quality is a bit low compared to animal-based proteins, but still we need to choose them, because even if we are not vegan, even if we are not vegetarian, we need to consume legumes in our diet, because they are really high in protein, and also they are low in saturated fat, and also good source of dietary fiber. Now I want to share my screen because I want to show you some vegan sources of proteins. You can see in the pictures, especially plant-based sources of proteins include lentils, beans, chickpeas, seeds, nuts, nut butters, especially peanut butter, and also tofu is good source of protein for vegan or vegetarian people. But I just want to highlight here, sometimes, for example, for peanut butter, yes, it is a good source of protein, but if we should be careful about added sugar content, because sometimes it can have more added sugar than protein. And of course, we need to limit added sugar in our diet too. That's why we should check food label, and we should choose especially low added sugar options in supermarket. As another option, we can also make peanut butter at home. There are many different recipes on Google, and it could be low in sugar, and it could be a healthier option for vegan or vegetarian people in terms of protein. I also want to mention here about plant-based milk, because sometimes vegetarian or vegan people prefer this milk, and when you see in the table, for example, actually their protein and sugar contents varies. For example, you can see only 1 gram protein in rice milk, 0 gram protein in coconut milk. But for example, in soy milk, you can see quite a good amount of protein. It has 6 gram protein per glass. It is around 250 milliliter. And also, again, I want to emphasize here that it can be high in sugar. You see, especially for rice milk, it has 14 gram sugar, but you see, for example, coconut milk can be 1 gram sugar. We always need to choose unsweetened options in supermarkets, because it should be low in added sugar too. So I think it is enough for this question.
So, sorry, I just have a question. So, you know, on the soy milk, it's got more protein, but it's got more calories. Whereas, I drink oat milk. Oat milk has less, even though it has less protein, it has less calories. If people are watching if people are calorie counting, what would you suggest to them to still have the soy milk because is it soy milk? Yes, soy milk because it has more protein, or choose a milk that has less calories, even though it has less protein? Does that make sense?
Actually, because generally their recommendations are 2 portions, and 1 portion daily approximately provides 100 to 120 kilocalorie. That's why, yes, calories are important, but not that much important. If people choose plant-based milk, they can choose oat milk or soy milk too, especially for protein. For example, for protein, soy milk is superior than oat milk. That's the point. Calorie is important, but for example, we don't consume 1 liter soy milk or oat milk a day. That's why calorie is important, but not that much important.
Okay. So we'll move on to dieting. We all know there's positives and negatives to dieting, and there's lots of different diets out there, keto diet or juice cleansing. Are diets good, bad, and what effects do they have?
Okay, it is a very good question. Actually, it depends on calorie, food choices, and first of all, I want to say that any kind of diet, whether it is intermittent fasting, ketogenic diet, or low carb or low fat, can cause weight loss thanks to calorie restriction. If we restrict calorie, we can lose weight. But the point is, what we lost is important because our body composed of mainly fat mass, muscle mass, and water. And for healthy weight loss, we especially emphasize fat loss instead of water or muscle mass loss because muscle mass is especially important for our basal metabolic rate and we need to preserve our muscle tissue. That's why for healthy weight loss, we mainly emphasize fat loss. And for example, if people follow very restricted calorie diet, it means less than 800 kilocalorie per day, and especially many detox diets are very low calorie diets. They can lose mainly water and muscle, and it is not desirable. Also, because their calorie is very restrictive, they couldn't get sufficient amount of micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals from diet. And as a result, micronutrient deficiencies may occur. It is another important point. That's why for healthy weight loss, we emphasize moderate energy restriction. It means 500 to 850 kilocalorie restriction per day. And for example, for women, if a woman wants to lose weight, the calorie range is 1,200 to 1,500 kilocalorie. For men, 1,500 kilocalorie to 1,800 kilocalorie per day. These are the new weight loss recommendation calorie. And as a common mistake, people start diets and at the end of the diet, they just consume the similar energy like in the baseline. But it is wrong because we don't need the same energy compared to baseline because our body weight is as low and we need to reduce our calorie intake around 25%. And because people just eat like before dieting, weight regain is very common and 95% of people gain the weight they lost in diet. It is also another important aspect. And I want to emphasize here, still doing a diet if you're overweight or obese is still a very good idea because nowadays non-communicable diseases are very common. I mean cardiovascular diseases and diabetes. And the best way to prevent those diseases is losing weight. We know that because if you do a diet, you're gonna lose weight and your blood glucose levels and your blood lipid levels decrease and it improves health for this reason. You mentioned about detox diets. Actually, it is a marketing term and any health professional know that our body already has detoxifying organs, especially our liver, our kidneys are detoxifying organs and they remove waste and toxins from our body if they work properly. And although it is very popular in social media, there is no evidence to support the use of detox diets for removing toxins or weight loss or improving health. And basically, we cannot detoxify our body with celery juice, for example, but we can do it thanks to our liver and our kidneys. Mm-hmm. Also, there are some diet wars in social media. Some people say low carb diets are best, others say no, low fat diets are best. But the problem is you can have a low carb diet and it can be unhealthy, especially if you consume too much red meat and if you don't get enough fiber in your diet, it is still unhealthy. And the scenario is similar for low fat diets because I forgot to share my screen. I am sharing with you.
Okay.
Now you can see now. Okay, because if you have low carb diet, for example, it can be unhealthy, and this scenario is similar for low fat diet too, because if you eat too much refined carbohydrate, it is still unhealthy. And the most important thing is diet quality in this case, rather than macronutrient ratios in diet. And as I told you before, we don't need any detox diets in our diet because we already have detoxifying organs.
So in summary, what you're saying is if people want to lose weight or want to diet, the best way to do it is sustainable. So eat the right foods and don't completely shrink the number of calories you have. You take off 500 to 800, which is not really that much.
And it's still sustainable and healthy, and it can be lifestyle because thanks to the moderate calorie restriction.
Yeah, and of course you said what every person I know says, that you have to be in a calorie deficit. So you have to burn more energy than you're consuming. That's right.
Yes.
And in case people don't know, how do we burn that energy? Of course exercise, but how else do we burn that energy?
We can burn energy with exercise, and with, for example, even if we don't do exercise, we have a basal metabolic rate. I mean, for our organ functions, we need energy daily. But of course, because actually we are consuming more energy than our basal metabolic rate, we need to do physical activity, and it can be everything. I mean, walking to school and our daily activities. But of course, exercise is very important, especially if people are on dieting, to preserve muscle mass, because muscle mass is important factor for our energy expenditure. We need to preserve it, and the best way to preserve it is doing some resistance exercise. That's why I really support the idea of 150 minutes physical activity a week, which is the recommendation of World Health Organization. And for calorie deficit, we should do both diet, and we should improve our physical activity.
Okay, I'm just going to come to a question that we've got now because it's relevant. So we just had a question in the chat that says, what if we want to gain weight? Which is
if we want to gain weight, very good question, because obesity is very common. I just focus on weight loss. If we want to gain weight, the scenario is similar. We need to increase our daily calorie intake, but still the recommended calories are same, and we need to increase calorie to, it depends on the person, it depends on the goal, but approximately 500 kilocalorie per day, for example, we are increasing the calorie. And still what we eat is important. For example, for weight gain, we don't suggest French fries or ultra processed foods. We still emphasize healthy foods, and especially high fiber foods, to maintain health for healthy weight gain. I hope it is enough.
Okay, if that doesn't explain it, we can always come back to it at the end when we do the questions. Yeah, okay. They said thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so doctors, I've been told to take vitamin D, take your multivitamins, take your iron, but can you tell us a bit more about supplements? Can we rely on them to get our nutrition, if that's the right word?
Okay, supplements is a really important topic. I want to just share my screen because there are some issues with supplements. Okay. Especially, yes, supplements can plug dietary gaps, but for nutrients from foods, they are most important. That's why we say foods come first. And if we have a balanced diet, and if we have enough calorie in our diet, we don't likely need supplements in our diet. But of course, vitamin D is an exception, because 90% of the vitamin D comes from sunlight, not from food. And especially in winter months, we don't go out and we don't get sufficient sunlight, and we don't synthesize sufficient amount of vitamin D. But in this case, we need to check our blood levels for the specific vitamin and mineral. We need to ask ourselves, what is my blood level for the vitamin and mineral? Do I have a deficiency? And in this case, doctors prescribe the correct dose of vitamin D if a person has a vitamin D deficiency. And also, for example, vegan people exclude animal-based foods from their diet. That's why they need to use vitamin B12 supplementation in addition to their foods, because they don't get vitamin B12 from foods sufficiently. Another point is increased requirements. What I mean, for example, do I need more than general population? For example, pregnant women should consume more folic acid compared to general population, and folic acid supplementation is necessary for them. It is especially important for infants, and especially it prevents neural tube defects. And in case of increased requirement, still doctors or healthcare professionals prescribe those supplements to people. Another question with the supplements is, can they be toxic? Yes, they can be toxic, especially we store some vitamins in our body, such as vitamin A, D, E, K, and they can be toxic if we consume too much. That's why, for example, if you consume too much vitamin D supplement, it can damage our body because it can be toxic.
So,
we also have, yeah, sorry,
I was just going to ask, should you get a recommendation from a doctor before you take, because you can get multivitamins anywhere, so should you get a recommendation before you take them, or is it okay to take one a day?
It is better, especially for dose, because they determine the correct dose, because we have a range. For example, what kind of deficiency? If your deficiency level is too much, you need more vitamin D supplementation. Yeah. That's why it is better to go with doctor and check for vitamin D, serum vitamin D levels. It is important because.
Okay, great.
Also, we have some support supplements, and especially they aid some ergogenic aids. For example, I remember branched chain amino acids are very popular for muscle protein synthesis, but we need to check the evidence behind them, because for branched chain amino acids, yes, they are important for muscle protein synthesis, but the problem is still the supplementation doesn't increase the muscle protein synthesis further. For this reason, there is no need to use the supplement for additional muscle protein synthesis. And in any kind of supplementation, especially for their efficiency, we need to check the evidence behind them before using it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So next, a big topic nowadays, I think, is a gluten-free diet. You know, some people, I don't know if it's almost trendy to have a gluten-free diet, or is it because it's more known, people are realizing that they might have a gluten intolerance. Is gluten really bad for you?
Okay, it is really very popular diet nowadays, and I want to share my screen again. Okay, let's start with what is gluten. I want to explain a little bit. Gluten is actually a protein compound found in whole grains such as wheat, rye, barley. And it is also very common food additive. I mean, when you go supermarket, you can see many foods, especially confectionery foods, contain gluten as a food additive. The problem is people with celiac disease when they ingest gluten, there is an autoimmune response in their body, especially in their intestines, and there is a damage in their intestines as a reaction to gluten. For this reason, for people with celiac disease, we suggest lifetime gluten restriction, lifetime gluten-free diet. It is actually medical nutrition therapy of celiac disease. It is undebatable. But in normal people, we don't have such reactions. I mean, we don't have any autoimmune response or any damage in our intestine. For this reason, actually, there is no need to restrict gluten in our diet because, especially, I told you, it's found in many whole grain products, and whole grain products are a good source of vitamin B complex vitamins, and also fiber. That's why no need to restrict them. But also, some people say that I have gluten sensitivity, but the problem is we still don't have any diagnostic criteria for gluten sensitivity. I mean the non-celiac gluten sensitivity, and we don't have any biomarker, or for most cases are self-diagnosed, and still jury is still out. We don't have any specific recommendation or any specific evidence-based approach for non-celiac gluten sensitivity. And there is a study, I wanted to put this on here because the sample size is very large. It is more than 2 million people, and at the end of the 26 years of follow-up, it is found that long-term dietary intake of gluten was not associated with coronary heart disease, because this diet is especially promoted as healthy diet and the best diet. They say it prevents cardiovascular disease, diabetes, but actually there is no evidence to support those claims. And especially the avoidance of gluten may result in reduced consumption of beneficial whole grains, and which may affect cardiovascular diseases. That's why we don't need to restrict gluten in our diet.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I maybe from what I've heard from people or whatever, a lot of people experience bloating, and I think sometimes people put the bloating down to having a gluten sensitivity or IBS or something that's not diagnosed, but it's probably just from eating it's from eating food, because we bloat normally, right? It doesn't mean that you have a sensitivity to something. It's just bloating is normal.
I mean, yes, you're right. Actually, the studies say it can be a part of, this kind of bloating and this kind of symptoms could be a part of IBC, irritable bowel syndrome, rather than celiac disease or non-celiac gluten sensitivity. And in this case, we need to determine the specific foods, and we need to avoid those foods. For example, in gluten-free diet, because people remove many ultra-processed foods, especially many chocolates are also contain some gluten. And in gluten-free diet, they may eat more healthier options, and as a result, they may feel better. But it still doesn't mean that they have a specific medical condition related to gluten, as far as we know. Of course, it can be a part of other syndromes, such as irritable bowel syndrome, or we still don't know what is non-celiac gluten sensitivity or how to define it, because it is more self-diagnosed in studies.
Yeah. Okay. So my grandma used to always say to me, Lauren, you must have your breakfast because it's the most important meal of the day. Is it the most important meal of the day? Do you have to have breakfast? Is it okay to have breakfast and then skip your lunch, or is it really that important?
Okay, it is very it is still hot debate, by the way. Still we nutritionists, we dietitians still talking about breakfast. I just want to share my screen again. The answer is it depends on person again. I am sorry, I don't have any clear answer for this question, but it depends on person. For example, if you wake up early and if you're starving, by all means eat an early breakfast. It is okay. But if not, if you don't feel hungry in early morning, just don't worry about it and don't eat a breakfast. But the situation is different for children, because it could be better to eat a breakfast for children because they go to school, and until lunch it would be better if they have some healthy breakfast before lectures. And for example, people with diabetes, because they have regular oral anti-diabetic drugs, or they have insulin regimen, they need to consume foods regularly. But I'm just talking about for general population. If you don't have any medical diagnosis, you can eat or skip breakfast. It is, both of them are okay. But the problem is, whether eat or skip, what you eat matters more than when you eat, we say. What does it mean? I mean, what do you prefer in your breakfast? Is there enough fiber? Is there enough protein? These are the questions people should ask themselves if they love breakfast. For example, in the pictures, you see in the right picture especially, it is a high breakfast cereal, and it is high in added sugar, but very low in protein and also very low in fiber. And this kind of breakfast is not healthy at all. But in the left picture, for example, it is an oatmeal with dairy and in addition some seeds and fruits, and it is a healthy option. And there is enough amount of protein and also fiber, and it can help to feel full until lunch, and people can choose this kind of breakfast in their diet. And for example, if people wake up early and eat unhealthy snacks instead of healthy breakfast, yes, they should choose healthy breakfast options. It will be better for them.
Okay. You've mentioned a lot. I think it's very obvious that it's what you eat matters.
Yes.
More than anything, the types of food that you are eating matters. And you know, we know the basics. We have protein, carbohydrates, you know, fats, but what are they actually good for?
Okay, let me explain them with our NHS Eat Well guide, because it shows us how much should we eat and what are the portion sizes for each group. And I love especially NHS food guide, because you can see there is no forbidden food actually, but for portion sizes and also the frequency are more important. And the first group is vegetable and fruits. The second group is starchy carbohydrates. The third group is dairy foods, and the fourth group is protein sources. And also we need to get some calorie from fats, oils, and spreads. And also we can eat occasionally high in added sugar and fat foods, especially desserts and also some snacks. And this shows how much we eat and why they are important for our health. Let's start with the first group. The first group is fruits and vegetables, and the recommendation is 5 a day. It means we need to consume 5 portion fruits and vegetables a day. And what counts as one? It means 80 gram of fresh, canned or frozen fruits and vegetables, or 30 gram dried fruits. Why they are important? They are important because they are good source of vitamins, minerals, and fiber. And they should make up over a third of the food we eat each day. And how can we increase our vegetable consumption, fruit consumption? For example, we can especially prepare salads with protein sources, like in my first picture. And I added some chickpeas, boiled chickpeas, and I added some low-fat cheese, and I enriched it. Also, in second picture, I just tried a plant-based recipe, because there are many different plant-based recipes on Google. I tried one of them. It was actually zucchini patties, and I just tried them to increase my vegetable consumption, because people think eating vegetable means only eating salads, but it is not true. We can improve our vegetable consumption with trying new recipes, especially, for example, we can try seasonal vegetable dishes. For example, in first and in the third picture, you see cauliflower and leek and these are winter vegetables. Especially leek is also a good source of prebiotics. And in the second picture, for example, it is a green bean. We need to cook more at home, and we need to try recipes to improve our vegetable consumption. So it is a very hot debate also, because people say, oh, I ate potato. Is it vegetable? Unfortunately, although it is a vegetable, of course, we don't count it as one of 5 a day, because it has a high starch content, it has high energy. That's why we count it as a carbohydrate, starchy carbohydrate group. And that's why we need to be careful when we consume potato, because, for example, think about a hamburger menu. There's a hamburger bread and additional French fries, and there are too much potato, and it means high carbohydrate intake, and there is almost no vegetable. So what is the issue with canned vegetables and fruits? I told you that they can be 1 of 5 a day, but the problem is we need to check the food label, especially for sodium and added sugar content. And we have a traffic light food label system in the United Kingdom. And you can see in the picture that the yellow means moderate, the red means high, and the green means low. And we need to choose especially low in saturated fat, low in fat, and also low in sugar and salt options for a healthy diet.
But sorry, but if people, because, you know, for students, I think they probably feel it's better to have canned things, because fresh fruit goes off so quickly that you have to keep buying it. So is it okay, even though fresh fruit and vegetables is better, is it okay to eat canned?
Yes, it is okay. Just check food label. I mean, there is no forbidden food in diet, but of course it would be better if they choose fresh options, because I mean, with time, there is a loss of vitamins and minerals. We should also take into account it. And if they want to consume canned vegetables and fruits, it must be low in especially sodium and added sugar. They need to check it.
Okay.
The second group is the starchy carbohydrates, and they should also make up just over a third of the food what we eat daily. But we need to be careful about the amount and also the quality of carbohydrates in our diet. We need to choose higher fiber options, for example, high fiber breakfast cereals, wholemeal pasta, brown rice, or we just simply leave the skins on potatoes. And for example, what we can do, for example, if we want to lose weight or for weight management, we can, for example, we shouldn't consume bread and whole grains in the same meal. I told you about hamburger menu, for example. If I have potato in my meal, I don't have to consume bread in addition. Also, for example, if I have some rice in addition to my vegetable dish, I don't have to consume bread in this meal. And we can just be careful about the amount and the quality of carbohydrates in our diet. Also, many people believe that starchy carbohydrates make us fat. Actually, it is a myth, because gram for gram, they contain fewer than half of the calories of fat, because 1 gram carbohydrate provides 4 kilocalories. On the other hand, 1 gram fat provides 9 kilocalories. And starchy foods can also be high source of vitamins, minerals, and dietary fiber. And I told you many times, whole grain option, whole grain varieties. So why whole grains and why they are so important? You can see in the picture the difference between whole grain and refined grain. And basically, whole grain consists of bran, endosperm, and germ, and that's why it is full package. It has both vitamins, minerals, and dietary fiber. But refined grain only contains starch, only endosperm. And what are the effects? For example, what are the effects of fiber on our health? First of all, satiety. It can help us feel full, which means we are less likely to eat too much. And also it is good for gastrointestinal health. And for example, fiber can help keep our bowels healthy. Also, it is good for glycemic control and blood lipids, because some types of fiber especially are partly digested and help to reduce the amount of cholesterol in our blood, especially low density lipoprotein cholesterol, which is also known as bad cholesterol in literature. So let's
sorry, can I
yeah.
just to confirm, refined grain, is that like white, so like white pasta,
White rice, for example,
bread,
yes.
white
For example,
rice.
we need to choose brown rice instead of
Brown.
white rice. Or, for example, instead of regular pasta, which I am going to mention now, we can choose whole wheat pasta, because I just want to show you the difference. I hope you can read the numbers, because I took the pictures last week, and those products are from same brand, just the difference is one of them is regular pasta and the other one is whole wheat pasta. And in the left one, you can see 2.2 gram fiber per 100 gram. But in the right side, you can see 3.8 gram fiber per 100 gram. And that's why we always need to check the food label, and we need to choose especially whole grain options. And that's why I love the quote, we should be like a Sherlock Holmes in supermarket, and we need to be careful about what we eat, what we choose.
I think that's amazing, and I think for people who are just starting, it's a good way to get some fiber in your diet. You can have the same meal, but if you just choose a different pasta or a different bread, it's making it healthier, even though it's the same meal.
What? Can you ask again?
No, I was just saying that you can still have, you can still have the same meal, but by just choosing a whole grain instead of refined grain, you're making the same meal healthier.
Yes, and it makes sense, because for example, it seems like, oh, one of them is 2 and there is only 1 gram difference. Actually, it is not only 1 gram. If we care about what we choose in supermarket, it makes sense. And for example, there is a fiber recommendation, 25 gram to 30 gram fiber we should consume daily. And the best way to get the fiber is from food rather than supplement, because many food options, vegetables, fruits, especially whole grain products, and also legumes are excellent source of fiber. And we can reach the recommendation with foods easily rather than with supplements. Okay, let's start with tips for healthier plates, because I know pasta is a favorite dish for everyone. Even I love pasta as a dietitian. I never exclude pasta in my diet. I love pasta, but I just consume it a little bit different. For example, instead of high-fat creamy sauces, I always choose whole grain pasta. I just showed you in the previous slide. And I especially love to cook with seasonal vegetables to increase fiber, vitamins, and minerals. And for example, because it is winter, I chose spinach, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts to enrich my pasta. And in this way, I reduced my starchy carbohydrates and increased my vegetable consumption in the same plate. And it can be a practical recommendation for students. Also, we can modify recipes. For example, I prepared the healthy hamburger menu, especially for my sister's daughter, because she really loves hamburger menu. And for example, how can we prepare this? I just choose whole grain bread, and as a side dish, I just removed the French fries and I added some roasted vegetables. And in this way, the hamburger menu became healthier.
What about if you had the burger, but you had a smaller portion of fries, and also the portion of vegetables? Because I know myself, I could not go to a restaurant or to Five Guys and have burger and vegetables. I would have to have burger and chips. So could you have a small portion of chips and some vegetables instead of having just all vegetables? Could you have both?
You can eat. I mean, it is not forbidden. I just want to tell this. It would be better. I mean, of course, you can eat sometimes your French fries, especially if you love physical activity and if you love to compensate what you eat with your physical activity.
Yeah.
Yes, it is not the case. I mean, I don't say that, oh, you should remove carbohydrates from your diet, but it would be better if, for example, you can choose salads in menu to increase your vegetable consumption. Especially even some fast food brands start to promote some salads as a side dish. And yes, you can still eat small burger, some French fries, but mostly vegetables in your meal. It could be yes, it could be done. Okay, I just want to emphasize here healthy cooking methods because we are mentioning about micronutrients, but how can we preserve them better while cooking? It depends on the cooking method actually, because there are healthy and unhealthy cooking methods. Steaming, stir frying, microwaving, baking, and boiling can be healthy, but there is an issue with boiling because nutrients such as vitamin C, folate are lost in the water. That's why we need to use only sufficient amount of water during cooking. It is important. And we shouldn't remove the water at the end of cooking because there will be a lot of folate and especially vitamin C. Also, frying is red line because frying is really unhealthy cooking method, and adding fat increases the calorie, and the high heat also destroys a lot of nutrients. That's why we shouldn't choose frying as a cooking method in our daily pattern. I also want to mention about, for example, fish and chips is very favorite foods in here, but the problem is there are also studies and they compare the omega-3 fatty acids contents in different kinds of cooked fish. And in the frying method, unfortunately, there is significantly a lot of loss of omega-3 fatty acids in fish. That's why we need to choose or prefer mostly healthy cooking methods. The third group is dairy or dairy alternatives. They are very good source of protein and some vitamins, especially calcium is very important for our bone health. And we need to choose lower fat options because dairy can be high source of saturated fat, and saturated fat increases the risk of cardiovascular diseases. And in the supermarket, we need to be careful about food label again, because especially flavored options, I mean flavored yogurt, especially yogurt with strawberry or yogurt with other fruits, can be high source of added sugar. That's why, for example, we can prepare fruits with plain yogurt at home, and it can be healthier compared to flavored options. We came to the protein foods, and as I told you, in the vegan protein sources, we have many different protein sources, such as animal-based sources and also plant-based sources. And we should mainly consume plant-based protein sources because they are low in saturated fat, but also high in fiber and also plant protein. And how can we improve the consumption of the legumes? For example, we can try new recipes and enjoy cooking at home. These are plant-based meatballs. For example, in the first picture, I made this with red lentil, and the second and third picture, I made this with green lentil. And there are many plant-based options on Google. I also love the idea of Meatless Monday because it makes really sense, because it is an international campaign actually and encourages people to not eat meat on Mondays. Why? Because it is both better for health and also better for environment. For health, it can help to reduce saturated fat consumption, and for planet, it can help to reduce the greenhouse emission. That's why I really support the idea of Meatless Monday. We came to other protein sources. Especially, I told you fish is important. Fish is important for omega-3 fatty acids especially, but and we need to consume at least 2 portions fish a week because of the beneficial fatty acids. But as I emphasized before, do not try to remove the omega-3 fatty acids. Also, to reduce meat consumption, we can try mixed dishes, for example, which contain both vegetables, pulses, and meat. And in the second picture, for example, I made chicken with spinach and sweet potato, and this plate has all I need from a meal. It has both carbohydrate, protein, and also fiber. And if we want to eat red meat, for example, we need to choose lean cuts of meat and meats, and we need to eat less red meat and processed meat in our daily nutrition. We came to the fifth group, oils and spreads. Especially unsaturated fats are healthier fats and include vegetable, rapeseed, olive oil, and sunflower oils. Especially we need to reduce solid fats because they are high source of saturated fat. This is the main reason. And we need to remember that all types of fats are high in energy, and we need to be careful about the amount we consume. I just wanted to add here coconut oil because I saw in social media many times coconut oil as superfood, but is it true? Let's check the evidence behind it. And for example, clinical trials do not support the claim because especially when we check the nutrient analysis of the coconut oil, it has 95% saturated fat. And saturated fat, again, increases the risk of cardiovascular disease because it increases the low-density lipoprotein cholesterol. That's why it is not a superfood, and also it can be harmful because of its saturated fat content. Also, I want to say it is not a fat burner. Come on, because some people, I just saw in social media 2 days ago, they prepare a coffee, they just add 1 or 2 tablespoons coconut oil and they say it is fat burner. No, there is no food that burns fat itself. No, they are just simplistic diet recommendations. We came to the last group, and as I told you before, they are not needed in our diet, but we can eat them occasionally. And these food groups include chocolate, cakes, biscuits, sugary soft drinks, butter, and also ice cream. Let's talk about a little bit added sugar limits and what about natural sugars. For example, especially added sugar shouldn't make up more than 5% of our daily calorie intake, and it is about 25 grams. And there are also some natural type of sugars, such as brown sugar or agave syrup or honey. But the problem is the limit is still same. Sugar is sugar, and we shouldn't consume too much added sugar in our diet because sugar is sugar. And for example, the limit is, I told you that the limit is 25 grams. And I put the information here from a very popular coffee brand. And you see, for example, filter coffee, 0 gram. It is also my choice. Espresso, 0 gram sugar. But you see in one small white mocha, there is a 24 gram sugar. And for example, without dessert, we can already reach the added sugar limit with only one small white mocha. That's why I still again emphasize we need to check the added sugar content in hot drinks. They may contain more sugar than we think. Also, sugar sweetened beverages, we should avoid them because many research to date show us their consumptions are associated with obesity and obesity-related diseases. Actually, I know that it is not easy because when I go to supermarket, I see there are many options for sugar-sweetened beverages. But when I want an unsweetened drink, unsweetened beverage option, the options are unfortunately limited. But still, we know that they are unhealthy. They are really high in added sugar, and we need to limit them. And we can replace it with water or unsweetened mineral waters. We can also choose diet, with sweeteners one, but still it would be better to replace it with water or unsweetened products. I told you about limits. I told you about the health effects of the sugar. So should we avoid desserts? I mean, even I don't have a sugar-free diet. I eat my favorite dessert occasionally. It means 1 or 2 times a week. And I know that milky desserts are better than fried desserts because frying process is unhealthy and it can cause trans fat formation, which is the most unhealthy type of fat. That's why I prefer mainly milky desserts. But if you eat only 1 times or 2 times, it is okay. Any kind of dessert you can choose. And we are human after all. I don't avoid desserts, but what is the frequency and what is the portion size are important factors. And in the picture, it is just a rice pudding. I added just a little bit walnut to enrich it.
It looks like creme brulee. I thought that was creme brulee.
No, it is rice pudding. I also added, for example, in recipe, they say add 1 glass sugar. As a dietitian, it shocked me. I just added only half glass sugar, and it is still tasty. It is still delicious. And I already eat occasionally. It is not that much problem, but I really love to modify recipes and reduce the added sugar content. So let's talk. We talked about added sugar, and salt is also important. The limit is 1 teaspoon per day for adults. It is really small. But we have, for example, some natural kind of salt, such as Himalayan salt, rock salt, and sea salt. Are they better, or can we consume them more? The answer is literally no. Similar scenario with the added sugar, for example. We shouldn't consume more than 1 teaspoon any kind of salt because they are all sodium chloride. And why we should limit it? Because too much sodium intake is consistently associated with high blood pressure and increased hypertension risk. That's why we shouldn't add too much salt while cooking. And also we need to check the food label, especially crepes could be high source of salt. We came to the fluid consumption. 6 to 8 cups or glasses per day. We need to drink mostly water. And for example, fruit juice can be part of our fluid consumption, but still we need to limit it because the problem is there is a loss of dietary fiber and also mineral and water in fruit juices, and they can be high in added sugar. That's why we should mostly prefer unsweetened beverages or water for food consumption. And during pandemic, we have some immune boosting claims, especially these are very popular. And simply put, we cannot boost our immune system through diet. Of course, healthy diet is important, especially to support or ensure the well functioning for the immune system, but we cannot boost it. It is just a myth. And still the government recommendations, I mean, hands, face to face are more important than any supplement. And what are the take-home messages? And as I told you through the slides, there is no forbidden or superfood. Portion size and frequency are still important. And paying attention to daily calorie intake is important for both weight loss and also for weight management. And there's a common point in all healthy eating patterns. It means limit ultra-processed foods and increase vegetable consumption. And healthy eating is important not only for our body, but also for our planet. Thank you for listening. I know I talked a lot and I am looking forward to hear your questions.
Thank you so much. That was so interesting. I learned a lot. We've had just about an hour, so we'll go through the questions quite quickly. We'll start with the question in the chat, where this person has asked how to start a healthy diet. So if somebody's not, if somebody doesn't have a healthy diet, how would you recommend them starting?
I mean, just start with, if you love pasta, you don't have to remove pasta from your diet. Just add some vegetables and just remove some sauces, for example. Also, if you love meat, you can still eat your meat, but just limit it to 2 days in a week. because it has high saturated fat content. And for example, prefer cooking at home because you can learn many healthy recipes from Google, and you can just improve your skills and you can improve your nutrition better, because going out itself causes high calorie intake. We know from studies, because many restaurant meals are unhealthy or high in calorie. That's why I really emphasize cooking at home is a very good start. And it doesn't mean cooking 1 or 2 hours for a meal. You can find practical recipes, for example, recipes that requires only 20 to 30 minutes. We can try this kind of practical and also healthy recipes. And in any case, eating healthy is not a complex issue. You can find many healthy recipes, and also you can improve your nutrition at home. Also, I really suggest to, for example, when you go supermarket, just check food labels, because we know that there is a big difference between healthy and unhealthy products, and the best way to learn this is checking the food labels. I can say this.
So to start eating healthy, you don't have to, like you say, there's no forbidden food, so you don't have to cut anything out. Just add some healthy, have either healthy alternatives or add some vegetables to whatever you're eating, right?
Yes.
Just
it doesn't improve your. Yeah, it doesn't mean that eat salad every day or every meal. You can try very different recipes, and for example, you don't have to exclude desserts from your diet. Even I don't have a sugar-free diet. I love desserts, but I limit my dessert consumption. I only eat 1 or 2 times a week. It is not a part of my daily nutrition.
And I think for that, it also has to be a mental thing. You have to, tell yourself that you're going to do it. You have to be consistent, and then eventually it will become normal to have vegetables with your food. Or
yes, it can be a part of daily nutrition, and it also helps and really supports mental health too, because when you eat heavy ultra processed food or diet, you may feel tired and you may feel sleepy, and it would be better if you have healthy nutrition. You can see the difference basically.
Jagoda, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I hope that answers your question. Somebody else has said, what about soft drinks like soda?
Soda, I mentioned them, especially sugar sweetened beverages means soda. We need to limit them in our diet, but we can, for example, drink DETOX. They are better than sugar sweetened options, especially better than regular Coke, but still it would be better if we avoid them, because they are still artificial sweeteners, and they are part of especially fast food culture, because we know that Coke is especially consumed with hamburger menu or pizza, not with healthy meal. I don't prefer Coke with spinach. That's why we can drink them, especially the unsweetened one, but it shouldn't be consumed every day, for example.
Okay, we have some questions from social media now.
Okay.
So somebody said, is it better to have 5 smaller meals or 3 big ones?
3 big ones. It also depends on people. If you feel hungry between meals, you should have healthy snacks. And for example, you can prepare your snacks with fresh fruits and also with some nuts, especially unsalted ones, and also you can prefer some dairy. But there is no one size fits all diet approach. For example, I am a snack eater. I prepare my snacks in breakfast. In breakfast time, for example, I generally prefer fresh fruits, and in addition, I consume some nuts. But there is no generalized results. Just for breakfast, it depends on you. If you feel hungry between 2 meals, between breakfast and lunch, if you feel hungry, you can do that.
Okay. Somebody else said the best sources of protein as snacks.
Best source of protein. I mean, for protein sources, I can say soy milk could be an option. And also, just let me think about that. Fruits are carbohydrates mainly. If you get, for example, you can choose chia seeds, and with dairy, for example, you can combine them. It can be high protein snack. And also, I don't know whether you know, but in my country, especially, kefir is a dairy product. It is a fermented dairy, and I generally prefer, in addition to fruit, I drink 1 glass of kefir to improve the protein content of my snack. Also, I mean, these are at all. I mainly eat my proteins from meals rather than snacks. But
What
you can
about
add
nuts? Do nuts have protein?
Yeah, they also have some protein.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot mentioning about them. Yes, you can prefer, for example, because instead of consuming only carbohydrates, only fruit, because there is no protein in fruits, it would be better if you add some nuts or some seeds or some dairy to your snack.
Okay. Somebody said, what are the go-to meals for students on a budget?
Yes, that's an issue, and I know that because the problem is, yes, healthy eating costs more than unhealthy eating, and in this case, we really need public. It is a public health issue, and we need to have better regulations to support healthy eating. And I really support the idea of, for example, reduce the prices for healthy products and increase the products for unhealthy products. I mean, sugar taxes especially are implied in many countries. What we can do, we can cook at home. It costs less in any case. For example, if you buy your vegetables and if you buy your foods from supermarket, and if you start to cook at home, it be low costly. And what can you do at this point? Actually, I know that our food environment is mostly composed of obesogenic foods, and we cannot do many things at this point.
Okay. How do we get a test for deficiency?
Deficiency for blood tests, for example, you can go a doctor. For example, if you feel tired, and for example, if you feel cold even in normal weather, you may have iron deficiency anemia. And in this case, the doctor should check your iron stores in your body, your iron levels. And if you have the deficiency, the doctor prescribe you the adequate amount of iron. And also you can improve your diet with iron sources, especially animal-based sources are high in iron. It is just what I remember. But for any kind of deficiency, for vitamin B12 or vitamin D, these are the most common ones, we need to go to doctor, and they need to check our blood levels before starting a supplementation.
So can you get a routine blood test? So, if you're not cold during normal weather or you don't have any obvious symptoms, can you get a routine blood check just to check everything?
I don't know. I think in this case, people need to ask this to GP, because he or she can suggest that yes, we can do. Because for example, some people say I don't eat too much, but I still put on weight. And in this case, for example, I first remember, is there any problem with thyroid functions? Because if there's a hypothyroidism, it can cause weight gain. And in this case, the doctor should check the thyroid hormone levels, and then he can prescribe the appropriate drugs. We shouldn't start them ourselves.
Okay. The same person said, how to have 5 a day when someone hates both veg, fruits, and smoothies.
What? Can you ask again?
Okay, how to have 5 a day when someone hates vegetables, fruits, and smoothies.
Oh my God! It means you are a picky eater, and I am sorry. The best way to get them is from fruits, vegetables, legumes, and I'm sorry, there is no animal-based food that contain sufficient amount of fiber or 5 a day. 5 a day is just for fruits and vegetables. I am sorry. You need to find a way to increase your vegetable and fruit consumption because they are really needed in our diets.
I wonder if this person could, let's say, if they make a dinner, if they chop the vegetables up really small, maybe then they won't taste it in the mouthfuls. Maybe that would work, you know?
Yes, that would work. And for example, for the same vegetable, there are many different ways to cook them, not only roasting. For example, for zucchini, you can make zucchini patties. It is a bit crispy. And also, I remember there is a recipe for cauliflower pizza. I mean, yes, it sounds not delicious like regular pizza, but we need to find a way to improve our vegetable consumption, and we can try new recipes. And as you see, and also, for example, what is your favorite food? We can combine the vegetables with them. For example, if you love a meat dish, you can add some vegetable to enrich it, and you can try this way.
Yeah. Okay. And final question from Instagram is dairy bad for you?
Is dairy bad for you? It is too general. Actually, dairy is a food group that we need to consume daily, not only for protein, for also calcium and vitamins. And it is not bad for us. But for example, for vegan people, because they don't want to eat dairy foods, we have options, and they are fortified with calcium, and they can get sufficient amount of calcium from fortified foods. But absolutely, it is not bad for health. I can't say this. I can't say this for any kind of foods, not for carbohydrates, not for any other foods too.
Okay. I just have one quick final question that I thought about when you were talking. So, you know, that people talk about this rule that if you want to lose weight, it's 80% diet, 20% exercise. Is that true? Or is it 50-50? Should you exercise as much as you eat healthy and vice versa?
You said 80-20, right?
Yeah, 80% diet, 20%
it is actually
exercise.
True. The effect of exercise and diet is not same because we need more effort to burn energy through diet. That's why the calorie restriction comes first for weight loss, and I can say 70 to 80% depends on the physical activity level comes from diet, and 20 to 30% comes from exercise. It is true, not 50-50, never.
Okay, and question, what about putting on weight? How does that work? Is it more food again than exercise? You know, like muscle exercises?
But can you ask again? Sorry.
So if somebody wants to put on weight instead of lose weight, is it the same rule that you have to focus on your diet more than exercise?
Yeah, it is same. But of course, resistance exercise is a good idea because if you want to put on weight, I told you that our body composed of fat mass, muscle mass, and water. And I don't want to put on weight only from fat because it could be unhealthy. We need to support both muscle gain and also fat gain for weight gain too.
Okay, great. That's all the questions, I think. Yeah, so thank you so much. It was very interesting and I learned a lot, and I will make some changes because I have way too much sugar. I thought honey was healthy because it's natural, but clearly it's not, so I will eat less honey. This will be posted on YouTube, and I will put Azize's email address in the comment section. So if you have any more questions, you can contact her. And I'll also put my email address so people can contact me. So yeah, I hope that was interesting. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you. It is actually my pleasure because especially there are many good questions for healthy nutrition, healthy diet, and I love to support our sports and active communities, and that I really appreciate to attending these events. Really, thank you, Lauren.
Oh, you're so welcome.